Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm Brandon. I still haven't received a call to be Elway's binocular boy Perna. Minus that one detail, the Denver Broncos coaching staff is shaping up nicely. Especially if your favorite movie trilogy is The Godfather, or your favorite singular movie is Goodfellas with the Casino Chaser, or if your favorite television drama series is The Sopranos, or if your favorite sitcom is Everybody Loves Raymond. I'm saying the new coaches, Fangio, Scangarello, and Donatell, all sound very Italian. Today, I will fill you in on all of the new Broncos coaches and why their heritage gives them the best chance to win the Lombardi Trophy. Let's get sports. So please, if you're Italian, like I'm Italian and love Italian things, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Speaking of Italian, this episode is sponsored by Vincero Watches. Use my promo code GOODSPORTS for 15% off your order and use my link in the description to get yourself a luxury watch. And in theme with this episode, which is Italian, Vincero means I will win in Italian. Vincero has over 13,000 five-star reviews on their website, so you know their watches are high quality. I got the Chrono S matte black watch, and I'm probably going to get my wife Jessica one of the women's rose gold watches for Valentine's Day. I can say that because she never watches my show anymore. Honestly, if you need a new watch, check out Vincero. They have so many well-designed timepieces, I promise everyone will stop making fun of how ugly your wrists are. Again, the promo code is GOODSPORTS for 15% off watches that are already affordable. And if I don't see Fangio, Donatell, and Scangarello with a Vincero watch, that means I will win. I'm not sure what they're doing. Now last week we learned the Broncos hired Vic Fangio as their head coach. And we all presumed Gary Kubiak would assume some sort of offensive coordinator role with the team. But that was before Kubiak stubbornly insisted on bringing back Rick Dennison and Brian Periani. Which is surprising, not in that nobody in their sane mind wanted Rick Dennison doing anything with the offense or offensive line, but surprising because Periani doesn't just sound Italian, he looks like he was birthed through a tube of manicotti. Now I say stubborn, but in reality, Kubiak is actually just too loyal to his friends. That's what cost him the OC job in Denver. Now, when I heard that he wanted to bring back Rick Dennison, I literally felt sick to my stomach. Rick Dennison was the offensive coordinator during the Super Bowl year in the same way that Mike Love was technically a member of the Beach Boys when they made Pet Sounds. Neither of them really did shit. In fact, they made it harder. The only difference is Rick Dennison doesn't go around wearing a hat that says Rick Dennison on it. Now, Dennison coached the Jets O-line last year and is expected to become the Vikings offensive line coach under Gary Kubiak, who has accepted an offensive consultant and assistant head coaching position with the Vikings. Which means the Broncos would have probably missed out on what might turn out to be the best hire of the decade. Scratch that, century and new offensive line coach, Mike Munchak. Mike Munchak, former Steelers offensive line coach, is a masterstroke for the Broncos, considering he had one of the best lines in the league at Pittsburgh and sent 3 starters to the Pro Bowl this year. Getting excited for the hiring of an offensive line coach is how bad it's gotten for the Broncos. But assuming Munchak's ability to evaluate players is as good as his ability to coach, this could change the team more than anything outside of finding one of those pesky franchise QBs. Now, Kubiak and Dennison are inheriting a bad offensive line in Minnesota, so watch that for comparison this next season. Okay, Fangio in, Kubiak out, Munchak in. That's the head coach and the O-line coach, which leads to defensive coordinator Ed Donatell. Not to be confused with Donatol, which is used to treat irritable bowel syndrome, with side effects including impotence, loss of interest in sex, and trouble having orgasm. Basically the symptoms the Broncos have faced since Peyton Manning retired. Now, Ed Donatell will technically be the defensive coordinator, but is really going to be serving as Vic Fangio's eyes in the booth, as Fangio will run the defense on game days. Besides the fact that Donatell has been working with Vic Fangio for the same amount of seasons that there will be for Game of Thrones, John Elway stated, "I could just picture in my head what it would look like for Donatell to be working with number 58 Von Miller every day." Not sure why I conjured that image so easily, but there it was, almost like deja vu. Well, the deja vu may have hit Elway because Donatell coached with the Broncos as a secondary coach in the 90s, then again in the 2000s, making his 2019 hire the third stint with the Broncos in 3 different decades. And now the Broncos are expected to hire Rich Scangarello from San Francisco to be the offensive coordinator, even though Kyle Shanahan didn't want to originally let Scangarello interview for the Broncos. Again, it's assumed he will get the job, but we assumed Kubiak would get the job too, so who knows? Scangarello has been working in San Francisco with the quarterback since Kyle Shanahan was hired there, and was a quality control coach under Shanahan in Atlanta, and was a chemistry teacher who needed a change after cooking meth with his former students or something. Now, Breaking Bad references aside, Scangarello really was coaching small college football a few years ago and has worked up the ranks quickly in the NFL. My question is, what could the 49ers quarterbacks coach coming to Denver mean? Nick Mullins? Nick Mullins? Nick Mullins? Not only did Scangarello find Nick Mullins, as Ryan Koenigsberg pointed out on Twitter, he might actually be his father. I was so jealous of how good Ryan's tweet was that I found my own doppelganger for Broncos' new linebackers coach, Brandon Staley, aka the caretaker. If only his last name was Stanley, I could guarantee the Broncos linebackers would be shining brighter than when DeMarcus Ware was a player here.
I can remember when I was a little boy, my grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths. She called it shining.
I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Who said you ain't supposed to?
Tony.
Who's Tony?
Tony Carter, an old corner who used to live in my mouth.
You guys think I'm messing with you, right? Or ripping off The Shining? But how do you explain Wade Phillips being possessed by a helpful demonic spirit during the game? What I can say about Scangarello is he got the best out of Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, prior to working with Scangarello, Jimmy G never once dated a porn star who said he was the first man to ever make her tap out during sex, and gave him the nickname the Energizer Bunny. Before Scangarello, Jimmy G was just a well-hung, unbelievably handsome backup quarterback who only made women he slept with orgasm 2 or 3 times per session. Also, Scangarello joins Garoppolo as another name I will never, ever be able to spell correctly. Look, I don't know how good or bad any of these hires are. Even the Mike Munchak hire, which we assume is a home run, I think really depends on his ability to evaluate players. The Kubiak departure says one thing to me though. It says that Vic Fangio is going to be a head coach and act like a head coach, and isn't into the idea of sharing power the way I think Vance Joseph had to agree to. Feels like Elway is 100% on board with letting Fangio run things, and the Kubiak retreat is a strong indication of that. And John Elway just may be growing up right before our very eyes. In an interview with Peter King this week, Elway admitted he had made his mind up about the Vance Joseph hiring too soon, and said Case Keenum is probably a short-term fix. That's not true though, because even a short-term fix should win more than 6 games. Super glue is a short-term fix because it actually holds shit together. Keenum turned out to be a no-term fix, just like Hillary Clinton. Political joke. Elway has to appreciate that one. We know ultra-conservative Elway should appreciate that. That's the kind of humor Binocular Boy can bring with him, Johnny! Next to Twitter turning on Mike Cliffs this week, the fact that the Broncos went on an Italian shopping spree to overhaul the team is already bringing in all the poor attempts at jokes. How many Italian jokes or nicknames can there possibly be for this new coaching staff? I do the dumb jokes, Twitter. That's my business, okay? So here comes a plate of molto baradici that should cover us until the draft. Hey look, it's the Mile High Mafia. Denver Broncos, Ninja Turtles, Denver Broncos, Ninja Turtles. Fangio leads, Donatello does defensive schemes. Scangarello is new, but ready to groom, and Munchak is a party dude! Gatorade will be replaced on the sideline with Nespresso, and oxygen masks replaced by cigars. It's not Coach Fangio, it's Don Fangio. Death by inches is just a nice way of saying dismember the body with a hacksaw. The players will no longer watch game film, instead they will study Al Pacino's performance in any given Sunday. Also, Mamma Mia is acceptable. Pre-game snacks will now exclusively be gabagool.
Gabagool, over here.
And that's your coaching news. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. He looks like he was birthed. He looks like he was birthed. He looks like he was birthed through a tube of manicotti. Birthed. Oh my God, I can't say birthed.